This is Viewpoint with Chris Pierce. Today's program has been underwritten by Body Auto Real Estate, providing personal and professional real estate service since 1987. For all your real estate needs, call Diane Body Auto at 402-690-4769. Linda McDermott with Fricke & Associates is an independent insurance representative helping you with personal and business insurance as well as your long-term care, life, health, and retirement needs. Come join the conversation at PoliticalInsidersReport.com, Nebraska's source for local politics.
Welcome to Viewpoint with Chris Pierce. I'm Michael Severe, and I'll be your guest host for the next 5 weeks as we present discussions and debates with candidates for Omaha City Council and Omaha Mayor. All general election candidates were invited to participate in the Viewpoint debates. Our questions from candidates are generated from citizens across Omaha that were compiled by committees consisting of Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. The candidates have not seen the questions and had no input on their content. We'll start this morning, Omaha City Council District 1. The candidates are incumbent Pete Festerson, who was elected to his seat in 2009, and Ed Truemper. Mr. Festerson declined our invitation. This morning, Ed Truemper joined us. Good morning, how are you doing?
Doing well, and I appreciate the invite. I'm sorry Pete Festerson was not able to come and join us, because I think it's very important that the citizens of Omaha and our district get an opportunity to really vet us and really get to hear our views and opinions.
Let's start with some of the questions that were arranged. You know that it took a long time for the latest Omaha fire contract to be negotiated. City Council went through it. It only lasted 2014, which is less than 2 years. When do you believe the negotiations will start again, and what are some of the major issues you think in that contract?
Well, it's going to need to start relatively quickly after the City Council gets seated, because it did take such a long time. It took a long time in 2003, 2004, and again, it took a long time for this contract. There's still a lot of issues and problems that need to be resolved. The first one is the amount of the unfunded liability that the citizens of Omaha are right now stuck with. Back in 2003, we had a $2 million surplus. Now we're somewhere north of $700 million in an unfunded liability. And it only continues to keep soaring, even with the fact that we've had a number of new taxes that have been put in place for the very reason of supposedly driving that unfunded liability down. So it's something that's going to need to be looked at. But at the same time, we also need to understand that we need to respect our firefighters and police officers. They work very hard on those positions, many times in dangerous situations. So we may need to make sure that they are fairly compensated. On the issues of pensions, that's a critical issue. And the unfunded liability really came from the 2004 contract. And that contract was authored under the Mayor Fahey and Pete Festerson administration. That is something that led to this. We cannot afford to continue to go down that path, because if it continues to balloon, it's going to be a problem that the citizens are going to be able to ill afford. We're going to end up with more property taxes, perhaps other taxes as well, to pay off debt that we shouldn't have incurred in the first place.
So you do believe that the City Council should do the negotiation, not the Mayor?
I think it's a discussion that needs to happen between the City Council and the Mayor's office. Mm-hmm. The composition of the City Council and those who believe that it needs to stay at City Council, that needs to be a forthright discussion. It also depends on the mayor. We've had mayoral candidates who feel that they should be the ones to negotiate, and there are others that have not felt that they should be the negotiators, that it should stay at City Council. In my mind, that is something we need to discuss, because going into the future, we can ill afford another disastrous contract like we did have in 2004.
Let's move on to another issue. Mecca operates the entertainment venues down by the riverfront, TD Ameritrade, and of course CenturyLink. $128 million for the park. Only 2 major clients right now, even other clients that have ended up not staying. UFL, a concert that was supposed to be there. Right now it's just Creighton and the College World Series. What do you believe the City Council can do specifically to organize events to get more permanent long-term tenants in TD Ameritrade and CenturyLink Center?
Well, the first thing we need to understand is that when you create a new business, which we did with the entertainment centers that we have, which are absolutely fantastic centers, what you have to do is create customers, and customers determine the value of those venues. So we need to go out and find out why people are not using that venue, those venues. And the second issue is we need to ask the people who will actually be going to those venues, what would they like to see? And in my mind, given all of the ways that we have to be able to communicate with citizens, be able to communicate with potential businesses and enterprises that would like to use those facilities, we need very much to work on getting new clients and clients that will see opportunity here at the same time showing success with customers using those facilities.
There are outsourced businesses that their only job is to bring in concerts and bring in things. Do you think it's MEC's sole responsibility to bring in tenants and concerts and conventions, or do you think they maybe should spend more money to outside organization to help?
I think we need to get help from whatever source that we can that allows us to be successful at this. Otherwise, it ends up being a failure, and then it ends up being on the backs of our taxpayers.
You probably heard people complain about the transportation system in Omaha before, the buses trying to get around. One of the big issues for jobs in North Omaha is getting those people from North Omaha to West Omaha, where a lot of the jobs are. What does the city of Omaha need to do to close that transportation gap for those Omahans who do want jobs but can't get there because maybe the bus service doesn't get there at time?
Well, let's talk about the transportation system we do have. Okay. You talk about getting people from Northeast Omaha to West Omaha. The people that I've talked to, and I've knocked on more than 3,000 doors, talked to thousands of people, is people have trouble using the transportation system to get anywhere.
Right.
So it is very important that we, again, go to the potential users, the potential customers, and find out where they do need to go. Many cities have been confronted with this issue. Some have failed to understand that, again, their bus system creates customers. You need to find out what the customers need, and at the same time provide a service. Many of the people I've talked to talk about the bus system being empty. I've paid attention, and many of our buses ride around empty.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Well, perhaps we're not serving the customer base that we need to serve. Many people have talked about, I would love to use the bus if it was convenient to me. How is it that universities like the University of Florida, University of Texas, even the University of Georgia, have massive systems of people who use buses to get to and from places as little as 10 minutes? And yet the city of Omaha can't figure out a system that they can use. How is it the universities have figured out? Perhaps we should go there and look at their model. They use many buses to go to many different places and bring people back to a central location. Nashville has figured this out. One of the most innovative programs that they have is in Nashville is what they do is if you get a new job, they give you a bus ticket for a year for free.
Wow.
Now, that sounds like a cost, but think about it. You now have a newly employed person who's paying taxes, they're paying for themselves, and they're using the bus system. They're being customers. They're driving the success, so to speak, of the bus system. I think you go back to the customer base. And again, we have many ways of communicating with folks in this day and age. Why are we not getting on and surveying bus riders when they get on the bus? I go and knock on doors, and in my busy practice, I've managed to knock on so many doors, and I've gotten all these opinions. And I've been doing it after hours. Imagine if we went out and really did a systematic review, and not only talk to people in Omaha, but people outside of Omaha as well. We could have a metropolitan, not just a city bus system.
Well, that's getting mountain to the mountain. What about the mountain to Muhammad? About trying to get more jobs in North Omaha? You've got a lot of buildings that are empty and vacant for a long time. Do we want to try to encourage some of those businesses by maybe giving them some sort of tax break to get them back to that part of town where the workers are?
One of the things that the city forgets, and I'm not going to just put it solely on the city, because many cities have done this, is what happens is they don't pay attention to the neighborhoods. I think that the thing that is the true treasure of Omaha is its neighborhoods. We have a lot of fine neighborhoods over in Northeast Omaha. We have others that have outright failed, and many in between. In my mind, you have to provide a safe environment for people to work and play and live. Most of the folks over there, or many of the folks that I've talked to, feel very uncomfortable going out after hours, feel they have to look over their shoulders. That is very important in my mind, that we provide a safe public environment. Businesses will come back. No amount of TIF money or any other public funding is going to bring businesses in and certainly have people want to work there who don't feel safe. Safety first. That's one of the issues that needs to happen. Plus, you have to have good housing. And what we do is the city has basically taken over a lot of properties. Why not turn those over to the private sector and let them rehabilitate those that can be rehabilitated? Even at the door, I get some of my best ideas listening to people door to door. And I had a lady with getting $800 a month public assistance. I spent 30 minutes at her door just enthralled by her idea, which is, I'm using public housing. I would love to go down, learn how to help remodel one of the vacant homes. And then I'd be perfectly willing to stay down there and help find a job. Why are we not giving people an opportunity who want to help themselves? We have the Metro Community University system who can train people to do this. They're already offering programs. Why are we not partnering with them to make that happen? We have such a philanthropic society here, so much better than many other places I've ever lived. Why are we not helping them enable folks like these folks to go out and prosper?
How do you think the city council can help people who want to start small businesses, who want to get in the business community? How do you think they can help them establish more jobs?
Well, the first thing we need to do is find out why people are not establishing small businesses, why they're going outside of Omaha and going to Sarpy County or Saunders County, Potawatomi County. Why are they going to those counties and bypassing Omaha? I find it amazing that people will fly into Omaha, use our airport, drive our road system for 30 minutes just to go south when they pass all of the great things that we have. So there's something that's keeping them from doing this. One of the issues has been, just told me, is the planning board at many levels. I don't want to castigate the planning board, but I think what we need to do is provide appropriate support for people who want to make and stake a claim in Omaha to provide thriving businesses. One of the things I love about living in Omaha is that it reminds me of the kind of service that we used to see in other parts of the country 50 years ago. It's that Midwestern feel of providing exemplary quality service on a consistent basis. It feels like people understand what service is. And I love going to small businesses here. I love going to such places as Crane Coffee because I can walk in the door and say nothing because they already have my coffee being mixed. They know what I want. Or I can go to a local hardware store and say, I want something to fix my thingamabob, and I think I need that thingamajig, and they automatically know what I'm talking about because I've been in that store so many times. They know what thingamabob I've broken.
When we talk about getting those businesses, and we talk to people that want to try, they say the difficulty is the tax burden that Omaha puts on them, occupational tax, other things. At the same time, you have a third of the businesses in the city that don't get taxed, they're tax exemptions. Is there a way we think we can do to maybe start taxing some of those places so it helps some of the other businesses and take some of the burden off them?
Well, a couple of things that I think that need to happen before on. First, we need complete transparency at City Hall related to our taxes and where that money goes to provide the services that we need. I'm in agreement with Mayor Settle on the issue. We need to provide the services that we need, but we need to be transparent about it. We have a new tax, the wheel tax that went in, and that was supposed to go to fix the roads. Well, is it fixing the roads? How many roads? I've actually heard that none of that money is being used. I have no proof of that, but that's what I've heard. The second issue, of course, is how are decisions made to prioritize funding decisions? I think there needs to be complete transparency. We also need to have complete transparency on ordinances, how ordinances are created, what is their reason for that. In my medical practice, we have the same kinds of issues. We have a problem, a medical problem, we need to come up with a solution. What's different about what we do is we get many more people involved, we study the problem from all aspects, and we try to make sure we have a winning solution. Guess what's different between city government? When we run it, we know we never correct every problem. We keep studying the problem until we get it right. In government, we write ordinances and we say we've solved the problem, we never look at it again. In my mind, when we create ordinances, we should study to make sure they're actually being the intended result. And when we don't, we need to go back and address those issues. Because our citizens have to do this. They do it when it comes to how much money they can spend, what they do to fix up their homes. They make those priorities every day. They make those judgments every day. And they make them on the basis of what they need. Well, I think city government should be doing the same thing.
You mentioned the wheel tax. You and I both live lots of places where it's a lot cheaper to register your car than it is in Omaha. You got people on fixed incomes, you have seniors. can the city council do to help those folks that already have a heck of a burden to register their car, and now you throw more wheel tax on?
Let's take wheel tax, occupation tax, dish tax. The only thing that I haven't seen taxed in this town is one that I saw at a local gas station that was advertising for free air.
Right.
And I'm sure that sooner or later somebody's going to get around to taxing that. Whoops, we already did it. It's called the wheel tax because there's air pumped in those tires. I'm making a joke, but it's really not a joke because everybody feels that they're really taxed heavily. And the tax burden is not only local, we have state, we have federal, it's a huge burden. People on fixed incomes, we need to really think in terms of what we can do to help them because that burden is disproportionate to them. They are on a fixed income. The proportion of tax that comes out from them is proportionally more because those of us who work actually do get raises. Most times, exactly. But what do? Well, they have to take it from something else. And knocking on doors, I found 1 in 6 people live on a fixed income. 1/6 of the Omaha that I've talked to is on a fixed income. That's a huge proportion. We need to find out from them what we can do. I don't have a simple answer for it because we need to have tax income to support our various services and our infrastructure. But at the same time, we need to be more efficient about how we use that money. We need to find ways to grow business. We need to grow opportunities. And we need to lessen the breakdown of things that we have. We need to make sure our police have appropriate equipment. We need to be more cost effective. There are ways to do this. Many places have figured it out. We have lots of citizens that are very smart who have answers to these problems, and we need to get everybody on board and find those solutions.
There's only one metropolitan city in the state, Omaha. They have unique challenges. The city council took one of those challenges and said, well, people, like you said, live in Omaha, but maybe they work someplace else, or maybe they, want to go into Suffolk County and start a business and want to come in Omaha, or they want to charge $50 for those people that live outside to come in Omaha. And then the legislature, of course, reversed that because they're only talking about Omaha. They don't want to be the whole other states cities in the state. Do you feel the state legislature overstepped its bounds or reversing the council's decision to have that new word?
No, I don't, and I'll give reason why. Obviously, I'm not a native Omahan. I've got a southern accent. I've lived in a lot of other places. One of those places was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which inaugurated a tax, and it actually was a tax on income for people who worked in the city. And what they did was they drove a lot of businesses outside of town, so not only were they not coming in town and working there, but then they weren't buying products. They basically lived as a ring around the city, and it really hastened the problem, worsened the problems that the city faced, and hastened the budgetary crises. You cannot tax your way out of this problem. There is no easy way to do that. And in fact, it drives businesses away. Go look at Sarpy County and take a look at Bellevue. It's the fastest growing city in Nebraska, one of the fastest growing in the USA. I've talked to the mayor down there. She gets phone calls 2 or 3 times a week from businesses in Omaha looking to relocate. That's a symptom, and we need to address why that's happening. We need to talk to businesses and find why that's happening, because that decreases the tax base. It also decreases the opportunity for folks like in Northeast Omaha, and absolutely for students at UNO, Creighton University, to stay here and stay within Omaha, because they've already staked their claim here. They would like to stay here, but they'll go where the opportunities are.
The argument, though, by the city council is saying they're using our roads, they're using all this stuff that we're spending money on, but they're then paying their taxes in Sarpy County.
But they're also paying other taxes as well. How many people do I see from Sarpy County who are using the gas stations up here? How many people stop and buy their groceries up here? How many people buy other services and products up here? You look at our medical system. How many people drive up here and use our medical system? My gosh, we have one of the best medical systems in America. It's certainly better than most of the medical systems that I've operated with and been a part of in my professional lifetime, that are in cities 3, 4, 5 times larger. We are so blessed. And we can't figure out a way to be able to figure out how much tax those people actually pay. Because I can tell you, the people figure out, they look and see that tax, and it runs on them.
One of the biggest controversies that happened in the last 10 years in Omaha was under Mayor Fay's administration when they annexed Elkhorn, bringing in Elkhorn, looking for more tax base. What do you think about communities such as Ralston, Bennington Valley? Should the city of Omaha look into maybe doing the same thing there so they continue to grow the tax base in the city?
If we're going to grow our tax base in the city, why don't we grow it within the existing city that we have? We talked about having 10,000 abandoned properties. What are we doing with that? What are we doing in Northeast Omaha? I see plenty of opportunity throughout the city. Yet we're going out and we're increasing our tax base. We also increase our liability. If you go and talk to the folks who live in communities that have been recently annexed in Omaha, their services deteriorate almost immediately. The roads don't get plowed when they used to get plowed regularly for snow removal. The roads deteriorate and they don't get their potholes filled. They don't see police or fire rescue presence. And Elkhorn was an example of a small, well-managed, modern city that the city took over, and everyone out there, nearly everyone out there, agrees that their services have deteriorated. They feel like a forgotten community, and they are still very upset about it. I think if you're going to annex, not only do you look at the tax revenue that you have to provide, but what is it going to be to provide the services those people need? I simply will not vote to annex another part of the city until not only do I see what the tax revenue is, but I want to see how they're going to preserve exemplary, consistent services for those people who we do annex.
We've talked about the occupational tax, kind of talked around it in this conversation. Restaurant tax, tobacco tax, it's paid for a lot of things since it was put in place. If you get on the city council, do you think we should maintain those taxes? Should we repeal them? What do we do about that revenue if we did repeal them?
Well, first off, let's talk about the occupation tax. First off, that's not revenue that goes to the city. That was a donation to Nebraska Medical Center to build a cancer center. All right? I'm not pro-cancer. I believe the cancer center is good. But the occupation tax now requires the citizens of Omaha to smoke 50 million packs of cigarettes over the 10-year life of this. All right? Do you know how much illness that produces? 50 million packs of cigarettes. That's going to cost about 50,000 years of lost life. Thousands more cases of strokes, heart attacks, and lung disease. It's going to lead to a lot more muted lives. If we really wanted to do something for the citizens of Omaha with that $30 million, we'd have done better with a smoking cessation program. It would have cost $2,000 per smoking citizen, and guess what? We could have probably gotten about 40% of those people off of smoking, and we would have saved hundreds of millions of dollars in lost wages, in extended lifetimes, a lot less problems with health, and bottom line is, just think of all the healthcare costs we could have saved.
I want to leave you some time for your closing statement, but I want to get to this really quick. We had some allegations of police misconduct. How do you believe the city should handle that? Should there be an independent auditor? How should we handle when there are incidents of believed misconduct?
Well, I did see the most recent video, and I will say that I will not address any of the issues related to the allegations you're making because it's still under investigation. I not only believe that we need a police auditor, but we also need a civilian review board. Many cities have one or the other. I think both is good. The civilian review board is made up of capable people who will be following procedures to investigate. Many cities have made this a priority and have been successful at this. And the city auditor, the police auditor, is one that follows certain procedures and actually is an independent body that should be separate from the police department and not under the purview of the police department, who actually ensures not only that what is found is applicable and applies to law, but also make sure that going into the future that police practices are being taught through the academies and making sure that it is dispensed through the department. I will say this, our most recent police chief, I think is a great guy. I think he's very smart, he's very sharp, he's very capable, and I think he can lead the police department going into the He has so many other issues, so many other problems that he needs to deal with. I think some of this burden needs to be taken on his back, and I think both would be good to have.
Mayor, give your closing statement.
Well, first, I would like to thank this program for giving me the opportunity to speak to the citizens of Omaha. I've been practicing pediatric medicine for more than 30 years, and I decided to run for city council because when I was in the hospital, I encountered a young boy who was very ill. He suffered from obesity. He developed pneumonia as a complication. It took a long time to get him cured of this pneumonia. My prescription after that to maintain his wellness was for him to be able to get exercise. I wanted him to be able to walk 6 blocks down the street to a local park. His grandmother said, "My grandson can't do that." And I asked why, and she said, "Gunfire." She was so concerned that he would lose his life to gang violence. That just stunned me. So here I am sitting inside the hospital doors thinking I'm doing a great job, and I have this kind of problem. This is not my problem. This is the city's problem. It's a problem that needs a different perspective. In my mind, that's why I'm running for city council. I look forward to serving the citizens in Omaha and will continue to go door to door after my election and continue to find out the issues that are important to you. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'd like to thank Ed Truemper for being with us today. To watch our discussion with Ed on your computer or mobile device, just log onto our website at www.neviewpoint.org and watch the podcast of the discussion and all the discussions and debates. We'll come back. We'll change our focus from City Council District 1 to District 2. We'll be right back.
The Midwest Ovarian Cancer Association mission is to support women diagnosed with ovarian cancer, to educate the public about the disease, and to support research. Currently, most women diagnosed with ovarian cancer have advanced disease and require prolonged medical treatment. Our goal at MOCA is to see fewer women diagnosed in advanced stages and to assure all women the availability of support and access to information. Please support these efforts by liking us on Facebook.
For 45 years, Family Housing Advisory Services has been improving quality of life by helping people achieve housing and financial stability. FAS prevents homelessness, educates homeowners, provides foreclosure prevention options, develops financially wise consumers, offers affordable mortgage lending options, eliminates housing discrimination, and reduces poverty. Programs and services include homebuyer education, tenant services, financial management, tax assistance, homeowner finance, and fair housing. For more information, call 402-934-7921.
My son, the Cub Scout, helped raise money to make camping safer.
My son, the Cub Scout, stood up to the school bully.
My son, the Cub Scout, volunteers at the homeless shelter.
My sons, the Boy Scouts, helped clean up after the devastating flood.
My son, the Eagle Scout, helped save a man's life.
My sons, the Eagle Scouts, are defending our nation.
My son, the Eagle Scout, became a doctor,
Civil engineer,
police chief,
wonderful husband and father,
State Senator.
Join Scouting2012.org.
Do you know about 211? It's help for an elderly relative or a troubled teen, family counseling, or job training. Instead of hunting for phone numbers, dial 211. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, talk to someone who will find the local information you need. United Way and its statewide partners want you to get connected and get answers. Dial 211 or go online at ne211.org.
Welcome back to Viewpoint's 2013 Omaha City Council Debate Series. I'm Michael Severe, sitting in for Chris Pierce. For the next 5 weeks, we'll talk to candidates running for Omaha City Council and Mayor. We just finished with our discussion with City Council District 1 candidate Ed Truemper, and thank him for participating this morning. We'll continue our discussion. Omaha City Council District 2 now. The candidates are incumbent Ben Gray, who was elected to his position in 2009, and Tariq Alameen. Mr. Alameen declined the invitation this morning, so we join us with Councilman Ben Gray. Good morning, Ben. How are you doing? All good. Thank you. One of the big conversations that's been going on throughout the mayor's election and city council, talking about the negotiation for the latest Omaha firefighter contract. It's going to be up in less than 2 years. Correct. How soon do you think city council to start working on it again, and what are some of the biggest issues with this next contract?
Well, I would think that we would certainly not want to wait until, we got on contract time, and usually that's not the process anyway. We probably will start in about a year early, because there are there are a couple of key issues that we need to address. The most major one has to be healthcare, and trying to get healthcare. We had a number of healthcare plans. I would say somewhere around 28 to 30 or something like that within city government. Now we're trying to get those down to one if we can. And so it's going to be that's going to be probably the key critical issue when we begin negotiations with the fire department. Again, it's going to be a key issue with all the unions, quite frankly, and fire department certainly will be one of them, trying to get that down to one. And the fire department, to their credit, went quite a long way in terms of healthcare this time. And so I don't know that that's going to be, I don't know how difficult of a negotiation that's going to be, because it's a give and take. Sure. If you want to take something, you got to give them something. So it'll be an interesting process, but I think healthcare is going to be one of the major keys that will be talked about in the next contract negotiation.
There's always a winner and loser in negotiation. Looking back on it, do you think that the firefighters won and the city got a bad contract?
No, not at all. We set out to do several things, and I think we accomplished those things. We ended spiking. We got firefighters to pay a little bit more into their pension fund. The issues of how you calculate their pay during retirement has been changed significantly, so that a lot of what was been dumped into their retirement plan, some of that won't be there now. So we successfully negotiated the end of spike, and we successfully negotiated them paying money into the pension fund. We successfully negotiated them changing health plans to a certain extent, and including their retirees as well. So I think we did a really good job this time, based on the kind of contract we had prior to that, which was almost a non-starter as far as we were concerned.
You believe the city council is the one that should do the negotiation? You believe the mayor's office should do it?
No, I think the mayor's office should have done it. I was not in favor, nor did I participate in the city council's negotiation. But 5 members wanted to do that, and while I didn't agree with it, I was not going to step in the way of it or do anything to minimize it or anything like that. So, but my feeling is that the mayor's office ought to be the negotiating team, not the city council. And I have history on this because, and covering city council and city hall over 35 years that I was in television, city council did do it for a while, but it became too cumbersome. And when you got 4 or 5 people saying 8 or 10 different things, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So my position is I would prefer for the mayor's office to do it.
Let's move on. We know Mecca operates CenturyLink and TD Ameritrade. It's a large tax burden. TD Ameritrade costs $128 million. They only have 2 permanent tenants right now: Great Baseball and also the College World Series. They lost a couple other ones, the Nighthawks and Big Sky Festival. What can the city council do to help get more events, more tenants? Is there anything the city council can do to help? And do you believe it should only be Mecca, or should they go out and maybe get an outsourced company that does this stuff professionally?
No, so far, to answer your last part of your question first, I'm fairly comfortable with Mecca, operating the facility. It's going to be difficult. I mean, we were up against it in terms of whether we wanted to keep the College World Series or not. So the fact of the matter is that we were almost in a position where we had to build that facility, TD Ameritrade. And in so doing, we knew at the time, or it was known at the time, I wasn't on the council when it was done, but it was known at the time that at that time there was only one tenant, and that was College World Series. And they were hopeful for Creighton, and finally did get Creighton. It's going to be a difficult task, but I don't know the role that the city council plays in that, quite frankly, because that's going to be up to a number of other people. That's going to be up to Mecca to a certain extent. That's going to be up to the Convention and Visitors Bureau who works with Mecca and some others. So I don't know that the city council has a real significant role in that, other than supporting, what some of the other entities that I just mentioned negotiate.
Yeah. And you really can't have a car if you don't have a job. In order to get that car, you got to get a job. Say you live in North Omaha, jobs are in West Omaha, or at least they're far enough to where you can't walk to them. Transportation system's not great in Omaha. So what do we do to fix that so you can get those people who want to work to the jobs?
Well, there are a number of things that we have to look at. First of all, what we need to do is begin creating, and I think this city council was very instrumental in beginning to we brought in Walmart, and some people will have different feelings about that one way or another, but that's anywhere from 230 to 300 jobs. The Ames Locust 16th Street redevelopment site that we were looking at, that's 70 acres of land that you can put a business park in. There are several other areas in which, with tax increment financing, not tax increment financing, but new market tax credits, both federal and state, and the state was introduced and passed by Senator Brent Council a couple of years ago. There's opportunities for expanding some of the businesses that already exist inside the 680 loop, including in North Omaha. But to answer your question specifically, transportation is a tough nut to crack, quite frankly, because of some of the things we did in the past that has hampered us at this point. For example, we built a hotel in the middle of the most major thoroughfare in the city of Omaha. I don't think city fathers were thinking right when they did that. Because if you had been able to use 16th Street, that would have been a street that could have been a feeder street for a number of other streets going east and west. Then we created a series of one-way streets that made it even more difficult, and we're trying to address that now as well. But it's not going to be a short-term fix. And so in the interim, we just have to do the best we can with the dollars that are available. And it does come down to an issue of dollars as well, because the dollars aren't there, quite frankly, to really do what we want to do, to make mass transportation be what it ought to be. We ought to consider rail transportation. I don't think it ought to be off the table simply because some people think it's too expensive or whatever. I think there's federal support for that if we can do it. But I think the real key, the real answer is the development of jobs within the 680 loop, which is why I was supportive of the 16th Ames Locust Ames redevelopment track. I was supportive and helped work to bring North Star and Walmart here. But we have to, those are some of the things that we have to do, create jobs. I was instrumental in making sure that we got the dollars through the tobacco tax to build the Cancer Research Center. People look at that as 1,200 jobs that once that center is built, but those are going to be 3,000 to 4,000, jobs as it is being built. And there's also opportunities for other development around that area. So, I think the real answer is developing more in the core city, building businesses, building infrastructure in the core part of our city inside the 680 loop. That's what's going to fix this.
And I understand that. At the same time, those small businesses want to open and feel safe.
Yes.
I know you probably know Ethel Mays. When she opened out on 16th Street, wasn't safe enough. She moved out to Vincent. Yeah. I mean, what do you do about that to make that area safe enough to encourage small businesses to want to open?
Well, I think it's, first of all, it's safer than it was, quite frankly, because most of our violent crime stats are going down, not going up like people would have you believe. During the job, and I think there's several steps that you have to take. Among them is the summer jobs program the step-up program that we created a couple of years ago, where I found that we could use community development block grant dollars to do that. So you've got to have a phased-in approach that addresses it from multiple levels. One, you got to have summer jobs so that young people and others have the ability to first of all, know how to get a job, know how to go to work, those sorts of things. In addition to that, we're creating North Star, which is a facility for boys. Just simply for boys to go and be mentored by individuals who can teach them how to be men and not have to have them do it on their own. And then you have to create infrastructure for jobs and so forth that we just talked about. So there's got to be a multiple pronged approach to address the issue of violence, because violence is not the problem. Violence is the symptom of a much greater problem, and that problem primarily rests with poverty and inability to find work.
One of the controversial things that happened when building the TD Ameritrade building up in Hunter name was the way TIP money was used. And I know there were legislators who said the city misused it. What do you feel about that?
No, we didn't misuse the money. I think people were upset with the blight and substandard designation.
Right.
I have issues with using the term blight and substandard designation. I think we need a different term to describe what we're doing. But the other thing that people need to recognize is that the tax increment financing was not used for the building. It was used for the roads and the land. It was used for the streets and the land surrounding it. So, to that extent, I don't think we misused TIP in any way because we didn't do it for the building. the TD Ameritrade, quite frankly, didn't need tips to build the building, quite frankly. So, but we did need some of that infrastructure work done with the roads leading to TD Ameritrade. So I don't think it was an issue.
Off that a little bit, do you believe that we have too many tax-exempt type businesses in Omaha? I know I've seen numbers where a third of some of the businesses out there aren't paying taxes. Some of the businesses are similar to others that do pay taxes. Do we need to look into that, maybe examine all of them and see who should be in and maybe who shouldn't be?
I think we need to reevaluate that on a regular basis. And I don't disagree that should happen, but when you talk about that again, that's a double-edged sword, because if you choose not to do it, then that gives other cities and other states an advantage over what we have. And being in Nebraska and being such a small state, just to give you an example, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. The area surrounding Cleveland, Ohio has almost 2.5 million people in it.
Right.
That's more than the whole state of Nebraska, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. So when you have a limited number of people and a limited number of resources and only a few people that constitute your tax base, you got to be a little bit more creative. When you get creative, sometimes that's going to create situations where people get certain advantages that they probably wouldn't normally get. But at the end of the day, you have to balance that with keeping folks employed, keeping major business in your city, continuing to grow your city. I mean, all of those things have to come into play. But I do agree that periodically we ought to look at who's there, who's receiving it, who's not, and if adjustments need to be made. The other thing I'll say about that, Michael, is that we also need to be checking to see if the individuals that we've given tax breaks to, that they're living up to the agreements that they agreed to, the hiring of certain people, the pay schedule for certain people. We need to be monitoring that to see if they're living up to it, and if they're not, then maybe we need to readjust or maybe even take it away from them.
We talked a lot about jobs. A lot of people live outside of Omaha but come in and work in Omaha. The City Council passed a $50 wheel tax for those folks. Then it was reversed by the legislature.
Yeah, we attempted it.
Yeah. What do you feel about that? Do you think they overstepped their bounds, the legislature reversing a tax that was necessary for a city in the state?
Overstepping their bounds would be a little bit strong because the federal government recognizes the state. They don't recognize municipalities or school districts or anything like that. Yeah. They recognize the state. The state has the ability to give. The state has the ability to take away. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're ever overstepping their bounds when they do something to address a city issue. Right. I do think it was a little unfair, quite frankly. I mean, because people that live outside the city but come in and use our streets on a regular basis ought to be paying something, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. And it was the intent of the city council and the mayor to address that. We did. The state took it away. It was a revenue source that we don't have anymore. It did damage us to a certain extent. But to say that the state overstepped the bounds, I don't think that would be an accurate statement.
Shouldn't they treat, and this is kind of selfish, shouldn't they treat Omaha differently? It's the only metropolitan city in the state. It's got unique disadvantages and advantages that other places don't. Beatrice doesn't have to worry about this issue. Do you think they should treat Omaha differently because it's a different type of place?
Well, I'll say something that's probably going to get me in trouble, but I'm saying it anyway. They do treat Omaha differently.
It's the wrong way. Yeah.
They do treat us differently.
Yeah.
And quite often, I've not seen a state, specifically focus on a city and a school district like they have the Omaha Public School District and say and do the kinds of things that they continue to do and say that could eventually undermine the city's ability to attract businesses and other things. Because, when you take things away and you say the city did this and the city did that, the city operated within the laws that the state gave us at the time. Now, if you want to turn around and take that away, that's fine, but the fact of the matter is that you granted us the authority, and we used the authority to do what we needed to do. Now, to take that away, to me, again, it's not making the state, it's not saying that the state overstepped its bounds, but I do think the state has been unfair in its dealings with the city of Omaha and in its dealings with Omaha Public Schools.
There was a change in the way public affairs television was done. I guess it was about 5 years ago now, and everything completely changed. Something that Cox Cable had to deal with, something that you guys have to deal with in the city council. Talk about Channel 22 and some of the issues and how everything ended up developing from where it was to what it is now.
Well, first of all, I think my opponent made a statement that was patently untrue when he said that we had a contract with CTI and nothing was wrong.
We, the city council,
had a contract with CTI. That was the administrator of Channel 22. We never had a contract with CTI. We never had a contract with anybody in the pay system. We had a contract with Cox, and Cox administered the pay program. With PEG, so that people know it's public access, educational access, and government access. And so they had the authority, the Cox had the authority and the responsibility for that. When they let us know that they were not going to keep PEG, they were not going to keep administering the PEG, and it was a non-starter as far as negotiations were concerned with the new contract. The city council had some tough decisions to make, and the city council was a little apprehensive about keeping PEG. I was a little apprehensive. I mean, I think the rest of the council were apprehensive because they didn't know much about broadcasting. I was apprehensive because I did know a lot about broadcasting. And I knew initially that we didn't have enough time or enough dollars to get things done in a timely fashion. We couldn't give a contract just surreptitiously to CTI. Right. When you're dealing with $2 million, you have to put that out for bid. So we put it out for an RFQ, request for qualifications. And request for qualifications is different than an RFP, request for bids. Because request for qualifications is the opportunity for you to suggest what your skill sets are for operating this particular entity.
And they're not giving you a number.
They're not giving you a number. No, because that comes later. Right. They look at who has the best set of qualifications. They begin the negotiating process with them. Jim Nelson, with Nelson Media, was the winner of that particular RFQ. But we had to go into negotiations with him in order to determine, what we could do what his skill sets would do for us to make Channel 22 better. And you have to remember that the city council voted 7-0 to support pay programming. So it's not like we were ever in a position where some of us said no. We were apprehensive because of the dollars, the limited dollars that were involved, and the amount of time that it took. But the fact of the matter is the council and I have always been supportive of Channel 22. Whoever gets the contract, that's who gets the contract. We don't have anything to do with that.
You were still shooting back when Mayor Fahey decided they were going to annex Elkhorn. It's a controversial issue. A lot of people upset by it. Now the city has, you can look in some other areas, maybe perhaps Ralston, Bennington Valley. You believe the city should look into that and maybe make an attempt to annex that and give more of the tax?
Annexation is annexation. When you're talking about that, you have to look at the debt ratio that exists within those SIDs or those municipalities or whatever. You have to look at the debt ratio. I don't know that Boston, for example, with their debt ratio, I think that would be more of a burden for the city of Omaha than it would be a help. And that's not casting aspersions on anybody in Boston. I'm just saying that, you got to look at it in terms of dollars and cents. So annexation, I think we need to continue to be as aggressive as we need to be. We need to continue to have our 3-mile limit, but we really need to be cautious as we look at the debt ratio of various entities that we want to take in to make sure that it's not going to be a greater burden on the current taxpayers of Omaha, nor is it going to be a detriment to those that we annex.
Go out to eat a lot, quite a bit. We do, my wife and I. We pay the restaurant tax. Neither one of us smoke. We pay the tobacco tax. But what can you do, working with the city council, other city council members, about those taxes? The occupational taxes, a lot of people are upset about them. Is there anything that we can do now? We're in official shape to repeal it?
Well, I've heard politicians say that if they get elected, that they're going to roll back the restaurant tax. Yeah. And I say, okay, now if you're going to do that, we're already a city that is looking at a shortfall of some $7 million. Some people say it's more than that, some say it's less than that, but I'm just going to use a round figure and say $7 million. If you take away that restaurant tax, and the restaurant tax was designed to help pay down our portion of the pension shortfall in the fire police pension funds. And so if you're going to take that away, a couple of things are going to happen. Number one is, well, first of all, in order to take it away, you just can't arbitrarily be mayor and say you're going to take it away. You still got to be able to count to 4 on the city council and share 4 votes. So, but if you take that away, if you attempt to take that away, pension liability. And if you do it, given the fact that you've negotiated, this is part of your negotiation with your police and fire, this gives them the opportunity, if you take it away, to potentially file legal action and have us pay the whole debt right away, which is somewhere around $600 million. So, you know, I mean, you just can't simply say, you know, we're going to take this away and not replace it with anything, because that is a significant portion of what we use to pay down the pension shortfall. In addition to that, had we not had that money, we would have been up the creek, no pun intended, as far as the floods were concerned. You know, but because we had the access money, we were able to purchase the pumps and do the other things necessary to keep CenturyLink and TD Ameritrade and others from flooding. So, you know, I think if you're going to do that, I think you got to find a way to pay for it. The tobacco tax is the same way. You want to build a cancer center. And they went out and got significant support from the business community, from the philanthropic community, from the state, and so forth. And so now, you know, people are asking, what's the city stake in this? And our stake was about the 15 cents that we talked about. That's still 85 cents less than in Iowa. So, I mean, I think you got to compare it accurately. You know, yeah, we raised it in order for in order for us to build the Cancer Research Center. But we didn't take, I mean, we're not even close to the dollars that it cost to buy a pack of cigarettes in Iowa.
Sure. Right. Real quick before we give you a chance to give your closing statements, you watched the video. The police have a difficult job to do every day on the streets. I'm not even sure what your opinion is. We've known each other for a long time. You believe we should bring back the police auditor? Should we have some sort of oversight? What should be the process when we're dealing with things, like a complaint from a citizen about the police?
You know, I'm not opposed to a police auditor. I just want to know how we're going to pay for it, how we're going to keep it safe, quite frankly. Because if we leave it the way, if we do it the way it was last time, then any city council member or mayor can get upset with it. They can lobby to get rid of it, and it's gone, and we're back to square one again. I'm thinking that if you want to keep it, if we legitimately want to keep it, then when the Charter Review Convention comes up this year, that ought to be one of the suggestions that comes to the council that we place on the ballot for people to vote for. Because if they do, then we can keep it safe, because then it becomes a charter issue, and it's on the charter, and we have the obligation to fund it once it becomes a charter department.
And who was it about? If I remember correctly, it was like a $75,000 position somewhere in there.
It's about a $75,000 position, but to fund an office like that is upwards of $250,000.
Okay, gotcha. Get your time for your closing statements.
Well, first of all, I'm a little disappointed that my opponent is not here. I would love to have engaged in a spirited discussion about some of the issues. The fact of the matter is I've been doing what I think is a really good job, and what a lot of people think is a really good job too. We have brought in, we've got $55 million worth of investment in between 50th and 60th and Ames alone. I don't know that has been done in a very long time in the city of Omaha. We are in North Omaha specifically, but we have that. We have development going on 30th and Ames. We have development going on 24th and Lake. We've developed and we have access to the Ames Locust development area. Once we complete those negotiations, that's 70 acres for new manufacturing and other types of jobs. So we've been doing the work, and we've been doing the work in terms of crime prevention. We've been working closely with the Empowerment Network, with the mayor, with others, to address specific issues of crime and violence and issues of employment and business development. So we've done a good job over these last 4 years, and I would like to ask for your vote for us to continue the momentum that we have started.
Thanks for the discussion. Always good to talk to you. I'd like to thank Councilman Ben Gray for being with us today. To watch our discussion with Ben on your computer or mobile device, just log onto our website at www.ne-viewpoint.org and watch the podcast of the discussion and all the discussions and debates. That's our program for today. Next week we'll focus on City Council Districts 3 and 4. Remember, the general election is Tuesday, May 14th. For more information on the candidates and where and how you can vote, visit Douglas County Election Commissioner's website at votedouglascounty.com.
50 years!
The Boys and Girls Club of the Midlands
have been helping kids like me. Like us. For just $30 a year, I can get
a healthy meal,
homework help, exercise, a safe place to stay after school every day. At one of our 8 clubs. My name is Janelle.
And I am the Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club. We are the Like us on Facebook at BGC Midlands. Cox will donate $1 to the Boys and Girls Club.
For 45 years, Family Housing Advisory Services has been improving quality of life by helping people achieve housing and financial stability. FAS prevents homelessness, educates homeowners, provides foreclosure prevention options, develops financially wise consumers, offers affordable mortgage lending options, eliminates housing discrimination, and reduces poverty. Programs and services include homebuyer education, tenant services, financial management, tax assistance, homeowner finance, and fair housing. For more information, call 402-934-7921.
The Midwest Ovarian Cancer Association mission is to support women diagnosed with ovarian cancer, to educate the public about the disease, and to support research. Currently, most women diagnosed with ovarian cancer have advanced disease and require prolonged medical treatment. Our goal at MOCA is to see fewer women diagnosed in advanced stages and to assure all women the availability of support and access to information. Please support these efforts by liking us on Facebook.
Do you know about 211? It's help for an elderly relative or a troubled teen, family counseling, or job training. Instead of hunting for phone numbers, dial 211. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, talk to someone who will find the local information you need. United Way and its statewide partners want you to get connected and get answers. Dial 211 or go online at ne211.org.